Hello, good evening and welcome to the second part of tonight's broadcast. This section is all about the Anvil Crew. First formed in 1953, the main focus of our club is our annual dinner on Common Riding Friday. The images you see are from a series of works by R.M. Taylor entitled TV at Reaches. We set sail for the Horse at 6 o'clock and our first port of call is here at Hornshole, where we pause to commemorate the events of 1514 and then pause in silence to remember members and guests of the club who have passed away in the previous 12 months. At first, I'd like to ask a previous guest speaker and now a regular crew member, Mr. Ian Lowes, to say a few words.
Since 1953, when 29 ratings under the captaincy of John Goodfellow completed the maiden voyage, the Anvil Crew have followed the River Teviot to the Cross Keys in Denholm on the evening of Common Riding Friday for our annual dinner. During these journeys, it has been a tradition to stop here at Hornshole, where the chief guest at the dinner says a few words about the momentous events that took place here. The crew also take a few moments to pay their respects and reflect on the deeds of our forebears at this spot that holds a special place in the hearts of many townfolk. The spot where Teviot falls sonorous. The spot where on its flowery border the youth of Hawick fell upon English spoilers, drew their saws like veteran heroes, charged the foe with native valour, routed them and took their colour, and returned to Hawick, that flag displaying, where to this day it still holds a unique place in the customs and traditions of the grey old town and in the hearts and minds of common riding supporters, both young and old. The spot where on the 1st of June 1901 a memorial was unveiled by Miss Lawson to honour the deeds of the young Collins who stayed from Flodden and through those deeds became Scotia's boast. The spot where on the 18th of May 2014 the ex-Cornets and ex-Acting Fathers Association unveiled a new memorial by stonemason Stan Stenhouse, which faithfully recreated sculptor Robert Robson's original monument. I was privileged and honoured as guest of the crew to have given oration here in 2014 at the recently unveiled memorial. The following year, the guest was Davy Scott, who was the Common Riding chief guest in 2016. His oration was delivered in verse, in the Hawick tongue, and in his own inimitable style. This year, in the midst of ongoing COVID restrictions, the crew are unable to meet here to pay their respects, and there won't be an oration. So, as part of our virtual Common Riding celebrations, we felt it would be appropriate for a wider audience to hear Davy's tribute to the young Hawick Collins from his visit here in 2015. Huddle round and lend an ear on this balmy border night, as who homage pay to forebears dear who fought upon this site. Bow your heed, hand to your heart, and we'll show them due respect, with reverent tones and sober words upon their deeds reflect. Listen, can you hear the sound o' the clatter and the din, the barking out orders to the sodgers riding in? O pitch and camp, the crackling fires, the English singing songs, o lassies fair, the fox and hare, frae the place where they belong. Some had fought at Flodden, and they'd seen King James afore. They'd slain the floor of Scotland, but they hadn't got them all. They kent there'd be resistance, that our folk would ne'er lie down, that the border men would rise again, and that time was coming soon. Extend the pain and punishment, and hit them when they're low. Strike the towns and villages with a final fatal blow. Impose martial order o'er the gallant border names, and make us answer to some lord be breaking border banes. This place was dark and eerie, and a reaving moon shone bright, and the English horse grew restless at the soons they heard that night. Approached the Hawick calling, and revenge was running high, but they couldn't have just gone belting in, or else all of them might die. The Hexham men were hardened, professional fighting men, but they'd ne'er met Hawick Collins, the likes of way back then. The teary boys stopped to pray, and the spirits in the trees were the flooding men returning, borne upon the border breeze. They gathered their hearts united, and their arms were strong as steel, led by their feather spirits, brought the English men to heel. The laddies now immortal, were Collins leal and true, cantered hame in triumph with a border banner blue. Their deeds of dash exalted, and Hornshole revered, the wild a wee teary is a thing that should be feared. When their kith and kin are threatened, as it was back then, they'll come after ye as Collins and gone hame heroic men.
Thank you, Ian, that was wonderful. At this point we would observe a minute's silence, but today we'll leave this tribute instead. And now it's time to re-embark and head off for Denholm. With the Anvil safely moored in Denholm's famous docks, we muster here at the Fox and Hounds to dine in style. Following a first-class meal, along with songs and poems, we also toast the Anvil Crew, Drumlanrig, and a guest speaker will toast the common riding. Tonight, as an example, and a further insight into the crew, with his toast, Scotia's boast, the Anvil Crew, we have, here's ex-captain, ex-common riding chief guest, Mr. Malcolm Murray.
Although essentially an exile from Hawick since I left school in 1955, the common riding weekend has always been the first entry in my diary each year, and I haven't missed many. Active participation on horseback was always going to be difficult, but there was a great sense of achievement in gaining my Moss Trooper's badge and also managing one common riding Friday, in spite of failing to get round the racecourse. However, the absolute pinnacle for me has to be having the opportunity to be the principal guest in 2011 with Michael Davidson, the cornet, and taking part at first hand in the functions and ceremonies that year. On top of that, I try to keep up to date with what's going on in the Greyall Toon, so the emergence of the Hawick paper in recent years has been a very welcome development. In addition to its well-illustrated reporting, I've also enjoyed the regular historically related articles by Alistair Redpath. Not so long ago, he did a series on the stresses, strains and changes which have influenced our traditional common riding over its long history, but they stopped short of more recent events such as the emergence of today's Anvil Crew, of which I've been a member since 1983 and regularly join the voyage to Denholm via Hornshole on the Friday evening. The emergence of today's Anvil Crew arose out of one of those stress and strain periods which reached a turning point in 1953. A number of staunch common riding supporters who were regular attendees at the Cornet's dinner had become upset at the degree it was deviating from proper recognition of our history and traditions, to the detriment of expected standards of behaviour. Particular aspects which they felt needed stronger recognition was the role of Drumlanrig and Hornshole itself. Consequently, a motley group of like-minded callants was recruited and the launch of their venture took place in 1953 involving 29 ratings under the captaincy of John Goodfellow. I don't know who decided on the name, but the choice of the Anvil Crew was inspirational. The song The Anvil Crew is one of only 2 such compositions still surviving from the pen of William Easton. Easton was a bright youngster, born around the mid-1800s, and it's possible the verses were composed whilst he was still at school, as he's known to have done this sort of thing for his contemporaries. The ditty is all about a boy whose real name was Fraser, but who became the Captain Mentee of the poem. He's accompanied on his maritime venture by his pals Buckham and Newell, all of whom were known to have kept a homemade raft up a close off the High Street, which they frequently took out onto the Teviot. Ironically, the ship's boatswain Newell drowned in the Teviot under speculative circumstances in 1918, aged 68. As far as I'm aware, nothing is known of what became of the other boys. The song itself became officially recognised after its performance at the Callans Club dinner in the Tower Hotel in 1905. Easton himself, however, was tragically killed, aged 23, in a shooting accident involving what was basically then the Home Guard, cutting short what some believe would have been a very promising future as a poet, and so his only other surviving song is Kinley's Stick. Since the first cruise, the embarking point has been near the Horse, with a landing at Hornshole, where due respects are made at the monument before proceeding to Denholm and disembarking to the Fox and Hounds for tots of rum, frequently involving a modicum of milk. The orders of the day have changed little since that first cruise, and have always been fronted by a verse from the song, and appropriately the captain serves 5 years, the same as the number of verses. The first formal toast to the memory of Drumlanrig's generous donation was made by Tam Reid in 1955, and with toasts to the comrading and cornet, plus one to the crew itself, the formalities are completed, with much singing and merriment fill out the time we're allowed to remain moored at Denholm before returning to our home port in time for those who wish to continue their frolicking to do so at the Ball or at local watering holes. The Anvil has now spent almost 2 years in dry dock, but the refit seems near completion, so hopefully we shall cruise again in 2022. Enjoy your common riding and help to make it the best virtual yin of all.
Thank you, Malcolm, that was great. After our guest for the evening toasts the common riding, the first part of our evening ends with Teary Bass, the individual verses being allocated to various members of the company randomly earlier in the night.
Scotia felt thine iron on the bloody field of Flodden, where our fathers fell with honour round our king and country's banner. Teary Bussy, teary on, sons of heroes slain at Flodden, imitating border bowmen, I defend your rights and common.
After Flodden was decided, Surrey had his troops divided. When he turned them loose to plunder, heaven just thy slip thy thunder.
Teary Bussy, teary on, sons of heroes slain at Flodden, imitating border bowmen, I defend your rights and common. Down they threw their bows and arrows, drew their swords like veteran heroes, charged the foe with native valour, routed them and took their colour. Teary Bussy, teary on, sons of heroes slain at Flodden, imitating border bowmen, I defend your rights and common. 'Twas then Drumlanrig, generous donor, gave immortal be his honour, What might soothe Hawick's dire disaster, land for tillage, beats and pasture?
Teary Bussy, teary on, and sons of heroes slain and flawed, irritating border bowmen, I defend your rights and common.
Peace be thy portion, Hawick forever, thine arts, thine commerce, flourish ever, down to the latest stages send it. Hawick was ever independent.
Hawick was ever independent. Hawick was ever independent.
Down to the latest ages send it. Hawick was ever independent.
Hip hip,
Hey!
hip hip,
Hey!
hip.
Hooray!
And now it's time for a short break, and a number of crewmen will sally forth to the Cross Keys to check on their rum supply. The second part of our night is less formal, with people performing their party pieces. But all too soon it's time to head for home. Our evening ends with us singing our song. The verses, like Teary Bus, spread around the different crewmen, with the captain traditionally singing the verse that corresponds to his year of office. Before that, there's just time to thank the Common Riding Committee. We are honoured to have been invited to be part of this year's virtual Common Riding. Thank you. A big well done to everyone involved in producing these broadcasts. And thanks to Malcolm Murray, Davy Scott, Ian Lowes and all our singers. And as the Anvil chugs its way back to Hawick, Able Seaman Brun is known to entertain us on the journey. And finally, in these testing times, I hope you and your loved ones all have a very happy common riding. Thanks for watching and good night.
Our bells were played and our anchor weighed as we sailed from the famed Pitch Plum, and the distant thunder rolled afar like the beat of a muffled drum. The lightning with its vivid flash illumined near and far, and the gale began to blow ere we had crossed the gashouse bar. Oh, the Anvil, she was stout and strong, broad-beamed and deep in keel, and Captain Menty walked the deck while Bottom manned the wheel.
But when we came to Laidlaw's Call, there's a horde of pirates lay. There was a cat where sails all set, a-waiting for her prey. But boatswain Newell is up aloft, bawled out with open mouth, there's a pirate on our lee bow there, gear 3 points to the south.
Oh, the Anvil, she was stout and strong, broad-beamed and deep in keel, and Captain Menty walked the deck while Bottom manned the wheel.
Aha, cried Menty, now for revenge, the cat's an awful brute. She assailed me in Denholm Cove, where I traded in fresh fruit. But now my men stick to your guns, and the pirate's crew will wallop, for the cat will find out to her cost we're a most expensive collop.
Oh, the Anvil, she was stout and strong, broad-beamed and deep in keel, and Captain Menty walked the deck while Bottom manned the wheel.
The battle then began and raged for 3 full hours or more. But our men were good and our guns were strong, so we pushed the cat ashore. But when we counted up our loss, we wept, you may believe. When we found our captain dear was slain, it made us all to grieve.
Oh, the Anvil, she was stout and strong, broad-beamed and deep in keel, and Captain Menty walked the deck while Bottom manned the wheel.
On a gun carriage we placed his corpse, and a shroud around him rolled. We wept as he plunged him in the deep, he was worth his weight in gold. A broken anchor we placed at his feet, and our colours around it wrapped. Then smiled and thought, had he been alive, he'd have sold it for old scrap.
Oh, the Anvil, she was stout and strong,
broad beamed and deep in keel, and Captain Metty walked the deck while Buckham ran the wheel.